If it's a word, the idiocy continues. Check it out.
Feminine and masculine energy both do belong in a relationship, but we're not going to act like only men can bring masculine energy. It's situations where, yes, it makes the most sense for my husband to lead. And it's situations where it might make the most sense for me to lead. And you have to have a partner that understands that. You have to have a partner that's going to be comfortable with that. And I didn't like where the conversation was going in a sense of, oh, I'm going to be the leader and this is my house and this is my and that's cool. That's how your household works. But in reality, in most other households, it's not realistic for a man to be like, oh, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. Rub my feet.
That's not fair.
I think that's very false.
No, but she's saying it happens in some households, but in a lot of households, it does not.
How about majority? Let's talk about majority.
Let's talk about majority.
I can't talk about majority because I know what happens with me and I know what happens with my mom and my dad.
All right, so then let's not talk about the opposite end of the spectrum.
We can talk about whatever we want to talk about here.
What's the definition of masculine?
Here's the definition of masculine: having qualities or appearance traditionally associated with men.
What's the definition of masculinity?
Here's the definition of masculinity: qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men.
So that's not me. That's not me. That's the definition of the word. All right? So, as she denoted at first, masculine and feminine go together. But then she says that it's okay for the woman to step in and play the part of the man. See, I'm a king. And as the king, if I have a queen in my life, I make no decisions without the counsel of my queen, because I'm not a dictator. In other words, I could come across a certain situation. And she knows that situation better because she has experience with that situation. And the final decision is mine. And that's what I feel works for me. And anybody that I allow in my life would have to match up with that. Now, I don't look down on people who feel otherwise, who feel differently. But at this stage in my life, I realize that I have allowed people in my life who, even some of them who have said they're cool with that, and I allowed myself to go to situations and get into situations with people who never had to prove that they were cool with that in the first place, even though they said that. And then I have allowed people in my life that I knew wasn't cool with that, but I tried to sway them. That's called self-accountability. All right? The problem that I have with this clip is just simply this. Ladies and gentlemen, when you say something and you put that out there and you say, you're talking in generals and you're having a general conversation about what the movement is and why we're bumping heads and why we're clashing in general, and then you switch to your own personal shit and say, well, it works for me, and it worked for my mother, and it worked for my father, and this, that, and the third. First of all, you're going to have to put those people in front of me and say, you can't tell me that it worked for them. You can't even tell me that it works for your partner. It works for you. All right? You are the same women who come on and complain about your situations where you've been cheated on. So here's the thing that I am simply saying in this. maybe the problem and maybe part of the reason that the shit didn't work for you in those situations where you have been cheated on or someone left you or someone ghosted you, and you have all of these conversations and y'all seem to have a lot of experience with that shit. All of these women that are on this panel, y'all seem to have a lot of experience with the negative shit that goes on, but maybe the problem is that you two aren't on the same page as far as the pecking order and what you expect from each other, what's acceptable from each other, or whatever the case may be. Maybe that's the problem. It's possible that that's the problem. It's possible that that's why it didn't work between the two of you. So here you are talking in general, and you transition the conversation as you sit on the couch in front of all types of people to your own selfish shit. And say, well, it worked for me. You could be what's called an anomaly. You could be what's called an anomaly, which is an exception. So just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. Now, with all of that being said, there are ladies coming to men and saying, protect me, provide for me, be the king. Until it's time to be the king, until it's time to make decisions, until it's time to do the right thing. And make decisions based off of logic, not emotion. To make the right decisions based off of logic, not emotion. And then, that masculine energy, the same masculine energy that came out at the end of the clip, when she said, we could talk about anything we want to. But you're not on stage to talk about you. You're talking about a general climate that is out here. Alright? So you mentioned femininity in the beginning, but you said nothing about femininity. So if you have two masculine people in the relationship who think she's supposed to step up and take the place of a man, then where is the feminine energy? Do you think that he's supposed to step over there and be feminine? No, ma'am, because you would look at him like he's less than a fucking man. So now you end up butting heads because you are trying to overtake him in his natural role that is built in him, and you're foregoing your natural role because feminine, I ain't even gonna say it. What is the definition of feminine?
Here's the definition of feminine: having qualities or an appearance traditionally associated with women.
What is the definition of femininity?
Here's the definition of femininity: qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of women.
So if you step over into the role of the masculine traits, who's left to be the feminine? Now you're both in the masculine role. And that explains so much more than you ever would want to ever admit that it does. Show off.